What does it mean to be truly happy, and how does our character influence our ability to experience happiness? This question prompts us to ponder the complex interplay between our personality traits and our sense of joy. Are we perhaps our own barriers to happiness? The traits we carry, the habits we nurture, might they be the ones holding us back? Today, we will delve deeper into this subject and explore 12 character traits that often hinder people from feeling truly happy. Starting off our list are 3 traits that are quite common: perfectionism, pessimism, and overthinking. While these traits are not inherently negative, they can certainly limit our ability to feel truly happy if not managed properly. First up, perfectionism. This trait often manifests as a constant striving for flawlessness and setting excessively high performance standards. It's accompanied by critical self-evaluations and concerns regarding others' evaluations. While it can drive us to achieve, it also has a darker side. The relentless pursuit of perfection can lead to unnecessary stress, disappointment, and even health problems. It's important to remember that nobody is perfect, and making mistakes is a vital part of growth. Next, we have pessimism. Pessimists tend to view the world through a lens of negativity, always expecting the worst possible outcome. This perspective can cloud our view of the world and limit our happiness. It can prevent us from seeing the good in situations and people, and from enjoying the present. While a healthy dose of realism is beneficial, excessive pessimism can be a happiness killer. Lastly, there's overthinking. Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation in your head over and over, analyzing every word and tone? Or perhaps you've spent countless hours worrying about a decision, unable to move forward. That's overthinking. It's the process of dwelling on problems, fears, or choices so much that it interferes with your ability to enjoy the present moment. Overthinking can lead to anxiety, stress, and even sleep problems. It's a thief that can steal joy from our lives. In conclusion, perfectionism, pessimism, and overthinking are common traits that can hinder our happiness. While these traits are not inherently bad, understanding their potential negative impacts can help us manage them effectively. The key is balance and self-awareness. By recognizing these traits in ourselves, we can work to counteract their effects and cultivate a happier, healthier mindset. While these traits are not inherently bad, they can certainly limit our ability to feel truly happy if not managed properly. Next on our list are fear of change, inability to trust, and lack of self-love. These 3 traits can profoundly impact our journey towards happiness and fulfillment in life. Let's start with the fear of change. Change is an inevitable part of life, and yet it can be incredibly daunting. This fear can stem from a variety of sources, such as uncertainty, past traumas, or even just the comfort of routine. But when we let this fear control us, it can limit our ability to grow, to experience new things, and ultimately to progress in life. It's like being stuck in a room with an unlocked door, but never having the courage to turn the knob and step outside. Moving on to the inability to trust. Trust is a fundamental aspect of any relationship, be it with friends, family, or romantic partners. When we find it difficult to trust others, we often isolate ourselves, creating walls that prevent us from forming meaningful connections. It's like being on an island, surrounded by water but never daring to swim. This lack of trust can stem from past betrayals or disappointments, but it's important to remember that not everyone will let us down. Lastly, let's talk about the lack of self-love. Self-love is not about being narcissistic or self-centered. It's about acknowledging our worth, accepting our flaws, and taking care of our mental, emotional, and physical health. When we lack self-love, we often struggle with feelings of low self-esteem and unworthiness. It's like looking in a mirror and only seeing the cracks, never the beautiful reflection staring back. This can lead to a vicious cycle of self-deprecation and unhappiness. In conclusion, these traits, fear of change, inability to trust, and lack of self-love, can greatly hinder our ability to feel happy and fulfilled in life. But remember, acknowledging these traits is the first step towards overcoming them. And in this journey of self-improvement, it's important to be kind to ourselves, for we are all works in progress. These traits can greatly hinder our ability to feel happy and fulfilled in life. Moving on, we have inability to forgive, constant need for validation, and materialism. Let's start with the inability to forgive. It's like carrying a bag of bricks on a long journey. The longer we hold on to grudges, the heavier they get. These negative emotions consume our energy, leaving little room for positivity and growth. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Rather, it's about setting ourselves free from the chains of resentment and allowing ourselves to move forward. Next up, we have the constant need for validation. We all crave approval and acceptance to some extent. However, when we constantly seek validation from others, we become dependent on external approval. This can be a slippery slope, leading to a loss of self-esteem and self-worth. It's important to remember that our value is not determined by the opinions of others, but by our own self-perception. We must learn to validate ourselves, to be our own cheerleaders, and to find contentment within ourselves. Finally, we come to materialism. In a world where consumerism is rampant, it's easy to fall into the trap of equating happiness with material possessions. But the truth is, the chase for possessions is a never-ending one. There's always a newer car, a bigger house, a more expensive watch. And the more we have, the more we want. This can lead to a life where we're constantly chasing after the next big thing, at the expense of genuine happiness. True happiness comes not from what we have, but from who we are, and the relationships and experiences we cherish. These traits, the inability to forgive, the constant need for validation and materialism, can often lead to a life filled with resentment, dependence, and emptiness. But by recognizing these traits in ourselves, we can begin the journey towards overcoming them, towards a life of genuine happiness and fulfillment. Remember, change starts with awareness, and with awareness comes the power to change. These traits can often lead to a life filled with resentment, dependence, and emptiness. Finally, we have excessive competitiveness, impatience, and lack of gratitude. These three traits, while seemingly distinct, are interconnected in their ability to hinder happiness and contentment in our lives. Let's start with excessive competitiveness. While competitiveness can be a driving force for success and personal growth, when it becomes excessive, it often leads to constant comparison and dissatisfaction. Instead of celebrating our achievements, we find ourselves looking over our shoulder, comparing our progress to those around us. This can create a perpetual cycle of striving and dissatisfaction, where our happiness is always just out of reach, tied to the next achievement or milestone. Next, we have impatience. In this fast-paced world, we often want things to happen immediately. We crave instant gratification, and when things don't go as planned or take longer than expected, we become frustrated and anxious. This impatience can prevent us from enjoying the journey of life. It's like being on a beautiful scenic drive, but instead of taking in the surroundings, we're only focused on reaching the destination. By doing so, we miss the beauty and lessons that come with the journey. Lastly, we have the lack of gratitude. It's easy to focus on what we lack. The job we didn't get, the relationship that didn't work out, the car we can't afford, but by doing so, we overlook the many blessings we do have. Lack of gratitude can make us focus on the negatives rather than appreciating what we have. Practicing gratitude, on the other hand, can shift our focus from what's missing in our lives to the abundance that's already present. In summary, excessive competitiveness can lead us down a path of constant comparison and dissatisfaction. Impatience can rob us of the joy in our journey, and a lack of gratitude can blind us to the blessings we already have. These traits can often rob us of our peace of mind and contentment. Having explored these 12 character traits, we can see how they can potentially limit our ability to feel happy. These traits are not unusual. In fact, all of us may exhibit some of them at different points in our lives. But let's briefly revisit these traits. Perfectionism, the relentless pursuit of flawlessness, can rob us of joy when we fail to meet our own unrealistic expectations. Pessimism, the constant focus on negatives, can blind us to the positives in our lives, while overthinking can trap us in a cycle of worry and stress. Fear of change can keep us stuck in unhappy situations, while an inability to trust can isolate us from meaningful relationships. Lack of self-love, meanwhile, can make us feel unworthy of happiness. Inability to forgive can fill our hearts with resentment, and the constant need for validation can make our happiness dependent on others. Materialism, the pursuit of possessions over experiences, can leave us feeling empty. Excessive competitiveness can turn life into a lonely race, while impatience can keep us from enjoying life's journey. Lastly, lack of gratitude can make us overlook the blessings we already have. Remember, understanding these traits is the first step to overcoming them. With self-awareness and effort, we can work on these traits and pave our path towards a happier life.